for Wine, but it will be if he loses.
And we are back. The variant of the second best of two here in the World Championship Finals for 5D chess is turn 0. I think that this is the most neutral probably of the variants, just in terms of like joint experience for the players. I don't know if you two would agree. Full screen this.
I don't know. I've never played one of them.
That's fair enough. Okay, wow, completely symmetric opening, going for like the sort of London.
I see nothing has changed.
Well, absolute wow. The first 6 moves of the game just blitzed out without any time lost by either player.
It's Grandmaster chess right there, blitzing out the opening.
Incredible. Yeah, truly. Wow, we see this, I think, by far the sort of most developed from like a theory perspective variant in 5D chess competitively is definitely, I think, turn 0, it's fair to say.
That is actually very funny, this position, because I get this all the time in Blitz in like 2D chess.
Oh, really?
with the kingside fianchetto, and
Wow.
just you're basically accepting this doubled pawn to get this possibility of a doubled pawn to get your light squared bishop out if you're
Right.
black, and now he's playing for c5.
Interesting.
With this knight out.
Wow, again, with the early, I have seen this, like exactly this structure, and then with the Queen C2 played by Dreamer, I've seen many games. This early Rook C8 is a variation that I actually haven't really seen before. It makes a lot of sense. Preparing, for maybe some sort of like pawn break on the C file easy, soon. A quiet H3 cutting off the mobility of Black's pieces, followed by a trade of the light square bishops. On D3, we have to remind ourselves, coming from reverse royalty, that the royal piece in this case is the king. So we've got the opportunity for, some belligerent, aggressive plays to be made by the queen, which can now just with impunity get all up in that shit. Now, I do know that Ryan is partial to this sort of vaguely King's Indian-y fianchetto kingside bishop followed by castle type structure in defended pawn. It's as he just goes for it as early as humanly possible.
Not as early as possible.
Well, as early as possible without throwing the game.
Okay.
Which is reasonable. Dreamer, on the other hand, really loves to... Actually, I'm surprised by the E3. I oftentimes see Dreamer in turn 0 set up a position where he can castle queenside and then push E4 afterward to break in the middle. He doesn't like to waste the tempo with the in between E3. But hey, here we are. Like I said earlier, setting up for the the C5 break here, coming a little bit earlier than I anticipated, but makes a lot of sense. This is interesting already. It's kind of like a structure that I haven't seen like this early out of a turn 0 game.
I mean, what Black wants to do, he just wants to... Black always wants to trade on D4 in this position and just get his, open up the diagonal. Maybe after something like C takes D4, C takes D4, then maybe even go for something like Knight E4. After that, now the diagonal, because the knight can't capture, because then the diagonal to the king would be open.
Right.
And what White should do here is probably just play like Rook C1. Keep the tension. White, of course, doesn't want to take on C5 because you're gonna give Black a million tempos after I guess not Knight takes, but maybe even something like, maybe you don't even recapture immediately. Maybe you play something like Queen A5 and then try to activate that way. But White, of course, doesn't want to take. Black doesn't want to push C4. I think he's just gonna play something like Rook C1.
This is really interesting and really kind of refreshing stylistically, because I think a lot of turn 0 games, especially with this sort of knight f3 d4 structure, turns out to be almost all of the activity up through the mid game kind of is like very kingside focused, coming straight up the middle, if that makes sense. And like the queen side, there just generally isn't that much that goes on, because you depend on these kind of c pawns to like shore up the spatial diagonal. There just isn't a lot of sort of activity that happens, whereas here, like the break straight up on the queen side insisting that the knight b7 move is meant to be kind of like a mainstay rather than sort of shoring up for the liability of. So like if you push the g pawn and the e pawn in this way, then obviously there's like a vulnerability on f6 with this knight that potentially you can sort of capitalize on as white, or at least it's one of the points that you can sort of like jump into. Right now it seems like the knight on d7 is planted there for like the long haul, because you know you're like explicitly opening up this triagonal with the for like the pawn break and keeping this knight there. So it's interesting to see. I've never seen a game like this out of like the sort of old guard of like 5D chess. Turn 0 players.
Okay, so he does take. Actually, I'm actually a little bit confused about that because I was just looking at, like, if you don't want to play something like Rook C1, you might even be looking at something like Knight E5 already, because the knight can never recapture, because B5 is actually a weak spot for black as well in this position. And okay, I mean he does capture, so
I mean, why would you as white have allowed the capture on d4?
yeah, I mean it's if you play if you just go for a normal move like the thing is what actually happened here, like white gave away his central pawn for a pawn that's not in the center, and he developed black's bishop.
True.
In return, like black has some additional weak squares now, like on h6 for example, but it's not immediately clear how he's gonna get at that. Like the only point I can see to this is yeah, that maybe he didn't want to allow the capture. Maybe he wants to play for something like knight e5 now.
Yeah.
Just try to go, like, that's what I would be looking at the moment, because now Rook C1's not a good move anymore, because the c file is not going to open up anytime soon.
Right.
And you might just be looking at like some normal piece play. Like if I look at black's position on like a structural level, there's as you already highlighted, there's a lot hanging on this knight on d7, because it's blocking the diagonal to the king, but it's also the only piece protecting the other knight. So we might see some sort of overload eventually, like ideas building up if you go knight e5. Like I think it's just gonna go knight e5 now. It just looks like such a normal move, and then you can increase the pressure with maybe going bishop g5, putting some additional pressure on the other knight, and yeah, trying to ask some questions. Because now black probably doesn't want to castle, because the bishop is not protecting h6 anymore.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. I think knight e5 kicking the sort of pivotal knight on d7 makes a lot of sense. I think that the other redeeming quality I could see to like proactively capturing this pawn is just that you don't want to fuck with your e3 or your c3 pawns, because like and you want the ability to like hop into e5 with this knight, because it's, you know, it's got this nice little outpost here, because you know, the knight on f6 isn't going to move and allow like f6 to be pushed, which is like a terrible structural move anyway. So you don't want to recapture the pawn on d4 with your knight, and you don't want to sacrifice either of these two pawns, either opening up the diagonal or, you know, the triagonal, burdening the knight on d2 the way that the d7 knight is burdened. So there's definitely a trade-off there. Dreamer taking way more time than Ryan has. Only a minute.
So he must be looking at queen b5 or knight e5. Like I'm almost certain it's going to be one of those two moves.
Yeah.
I slightly prefer knight e5 immediately, simply because you don't need as much protection on the d4 square anymore.
Yeah.
You're never gonna need that, and it's a little bit difficult to see like how black can make some attacking ideas.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, he does go for queen b5 instead.
It does come out. Obviously, can't be kicked by a6 because you drop the b7 pawn. What do you do here as
just play queen b6
Ryan?
here.
Queen b6. Yeah.
I think just play queen b6, and I'm a little bit surprised by this, because he must have seen that like this is going to happen. Like unless he has some.
What about queen?
Unless he has some crazy sacrificing ideas. Like I don't know. Queen takes knight takes, and then travel the bishop or
Yeah,
something,
queen
but there's
takes
no way
knight,
that can be
knight.
that can't be his idea.
Well, traveled. Yeah, that's the other thing. These knights are kind of locked here, because like what you do, but oftentimes when you've got your pieces kind of barreling down the king side, like Dreamer does, like I was saying, usually you see in this variant, you have to be worried about the bishops or the knights on f3 and f6 respectively, blocking the path of the bishops along the f file to travel onto the weak f2 and f7 pawns respectively. So if this knight comes out of the way here, for example, so the line to visualize what Lexi was suggesting earlier is potentially something crazy like if queen b6, then we have queen takes d7, not capturing with the king, because that just seems like a terrible idea. You're going to get mated in a few moves, so take back with the knight. And then in the future, this bishop traveling to f7 here after like a knight maybe comes in here and sort of threatens something or other. And if you get a bishop to this square on this board, or maybe the board after this knight has already recaptured on d7, then king probably has to recapture, and then you get like knight check potentially on like g4, and then you're playing for a mate on this diagonal. It's hard to visualize, but
it doesn't work at all. Like I'm actually a little bit shocked here. Like I wonder what other move he's thinking about other than queen b6. It looks like such a normal way to play in both 2D and 5D.
Yeah, Dreamer spent a lot of time mulling over queen b5 as well. So, I mean, you've got to think that, well, especially a player of Dreamer's caliber, he's, you know, there's been some amount of attention given to. Wow, okay. Neither player really respecting queen b6 here. Oh, Ryan also just checking travels.
Maybe Ryan
Okay,
doesn't want
locks
to
in
trade
bishop
queens.
b6. Interesting.
Possible, but it's possible. But I think in this position you would be happy to trade queens.
Yeah, when
because
your opponent's
queen
got
is on your
initiative like
starting
this.
square, whereas
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
white queen is deep in your camp already.
Yeah.
Like,
I think this is getting scary for black. Like after knight d5, after knight e5, you have some serious pressure.
Yeah, now that there's, yeah, it really is spooky, huh? Also, there's the thing that if, for example, now that the bishop is no longer staring at e7, the queen is now burdened with defending e7, so there might be something wild in the future, like just after knight e5 traveling to e7, that could be a real nuisance.
yeah, actually, maybe knight. Well, it probably doesn't work, but maybe something like knight g5 and then knight to g7 travel, and then like give
knight
million
g5,
checks
knight to
and
g7, yeah.
queen before. But it probably doesn't.
I'm really confused why he's taking so long. Like, am I missing something, or why wouldn't you just play knight d5 here? It looks like such a normal move.
Well,
Maybe, well, no, because you've got the bishop defending the e3 pawn, so you don't have to be worried about, like, the bishop-knight combination onto that square. Probably.
Unless he's looking at, like, bishop h6 immediately, but it seems like, I don't know. Like, if knight e5, black might have to castle, or play rook f8, but both look pretty scary.
Well, g6 is pushed, so castling doesn't immediately result in a loss, which is nice for Ryan. Dreamer deep in thought. Down to 11
Knight d5
minutes on
does
the
weaken
clock.
f7, but I mean, if you're in doubt, you can always just follow it up with playing knight f3, like knight d to f3. And I just think there's like so many immediate problems because even like apart from the obvious knight takes f7, there's like the knight is still like you're sort of in a cross pin in that position.
Could also be like a mentality thing where Dreamer's of the mindset that he's already up 2-0 and he doesn't want to, under any circumstances, like overextend in a position where he doesn't, you know, he like provides
I guess
counterplay.
like looking at the last two games, he does tend to like prefer defensive playstyle. Like,
That is
again,
what I characterized as the Dreamer style, and Andre pushed back on me. Just want to say, vindication.
No, yeah, I think it is a Dreamer's staff, but it's not exactly defensive always.
Conservative,
What-
solid.
I don't know, because like when I played Mage, I played the first games very defensively, and the Dreamer like to the point where it annoyed Dreamer.
Wait, when you played against Mage?
Yeah, in the quarterfinals.
Actually, the
Oh.
only other move that might make sense here is bishop e5 instead of knight e5. Oh, I guess
Bishop
this as well.
G5 coming out,
it just
pinning the
threatens to-
knight.
it just threatens to take it.
Yeah, wow. Interesting.
But yeah, it feels. This game feels a lot like playing against Dreamer.
Yeah, it really
As well.
does. You're kind of getting slowly sort of suffocated. Yeah, like I was saying earlier, when you push the G pawn like that, f6 is generally a huge liability. Now it's defended by the queen on d8 and the knight on d7, but of course that knight is pinned, so you can only capture with the queen. But after like, okay, so is he actually threatening to capture here? Because like, if bishop takes, queen takes, then I guess you've got a travel that you're preparing onto the
You're getting
D6
killed
knight?
in that variant for sure.
Yeah.
And keep in mind that knight e5 is still in the position.
Yeah, but you can't take a knight 2 turns in the past because it'll recapture.
No, I
itself.
mean just regularly instead of like unless it wins immediately, Dreamer's probably gonna keep the pin up.
Right.
And unless he's gonna like what he's trying to do is make like overload Black's position and then make it collapse. So I think a more normal approach here would be like, I mean, first of all, I don't even see a move here for Black, to be honest.
Chat
like, I guess-
suggesting some wacky rook c5 and rook c6 moves, both of which
Maybe.
aim to either unpin or kick the queen.
Yeah, to delay or something like, yeah, it probably has to go for something like, I don't know, like rook c5 followed by I don't know, d4, I guess, and then sack the exchange on g5 or something. Like that's I think Black's in huge trouble here.
What about oh no, you just lose. Never mind.
He didn't even say the move.
I was about to suggest a6 and then bishop takes and you take the queen, and then if takes you take back with the rook, but obviously just bishop takes h8 as mate, so it doesn't work.
Very good. Candidate moves.
Yeah.
Just strike out all the losing ones and then play the remaining winning one.
Exactly. Bishop takes f6, queen takes f6, and queen a4, so that the knight can't capture after a travel. Yeah, instead of the traveling 2 turns in the pass, setting up for traveling 3 turns in the pass. Yeah, I mean, it's a candidate. But if you do that, I think that the rook block actually just prevents the travel altogether. And then probably you've sacrificed enough material that maybe actually you can castle, because your opponent's got a
Hey.
queen on f6. Actually, I hate that line. I think it's probably not great.
I remember now why I don't like this variant, because I don't think like he even I can't even say, like, apart from bishop b6, I think Black has actually like played really well, but this position looks absolutely losing.
Yeah.
By virtue of the fact that you get to attack first, right?
I think
Yeah, no,
turn 0. Yeah, there's is where we see is a variant where we see the most kind of like the white. Even though it's turn 0 as opposed to standard, where Black is given a little bit more like counterplay out of the opening. I think that like at the highest level, white pushing like opening advantage really characterizes a lot of these games.
I was away when they played opening, but I don't know. I think like playing g6 and e6 both is kind of redundant a little bit.
White just holds all the cards here. Like he can even go for some long-term idea like queen a4 followed by queen h4 and just keep playing on that pin until Black dies, basically. Because the issue, the dark squared weaknesses are too much in this position. Like all you can see on the king side, all of Black's pawn are on light squares, but his dark squared bishop, which would be needed to fill these holes, is on the queen side, where it's not really attacking anything.
Right, Andre, that's a really good point as well. Yeah, so normally you either you either push the g pawn or the e pawn in order to liberate your dark squared bishop. In this case, both have been played, and you know the bishop is like off on the queen side anyway. So lots of vulnerabilities here without very much material that can sort of shore up the position. And as Lexi's alluding, you know, it's kind of like tying down Black's pieces in a way that's really limiting. So this pin now does, however, enable, for example, a6, because the knight on d7 is now free to capture, to recapture on f6. So this unpin, I think, is probably the best way to, you know, get Dreamer's sort of suffocating advance.
He is trying hard to flag.
Dreamer is trying hard to flag. As we saw last game, it appears that Dreamer potentially has some Super Cement Ultra Instincts tendencies that we didn't really know about.
I think he just hates winning positions, and then he just takes forever.
He's playing to the crowd, you know. He wants to keep it interesting. Wow,
So,
okay,
yeah,
that's
I kind of-
interesting. What do you think of Rook D1 here?
It's one of those moves that I don't know. I mean, it's never going to be a bad move. Let's start with that. He might just put Black into a position, because again, like this is a position where it's just hard to come up with a plan for Black, like because you actually can't. You can almost not move any pieces at all. Like he might play something like a6, but that's just gonna push the queen back one square. Like he's never gonna castle in this position. He might play. I guess he might play h6
Kicks
here.
the bishop, yeah. In that sense, this very much feels like every game I've ever played against Dreamer. Just like, I don't really know what I'm even playing for here. A few turns ago, I think castling was suggested by the chat. I think that's an issue because bishop h6 then opens up bishop g7, check only move, king takes, and then knight on g5 is mate. So
Well,
it's
He
not
has to
so
do
easy
something
to just
drastic here.
castle.
He's gonna play g5, I think.
So that was a suggestion for white, probably, or maybe not.
Oh, for white? Maybe you're right.
I think g5, g4 is actually good here.
Wow,
for Black.
castling in this
Oh,
position as
my God.
opposed to
Oh my God.
pushing g5, which feels like the most Ryan move in the position. Okay, well, hey, at least taking pressure off, sort of liberating like the queen side, like the knight, you know, the bishop, everything is kind of now able to move about. The only question is, does he actually have the space, the time and space to do that?
Like
Yeah.
queen d3, I think it just getting
It
killed.
looks sketchy as AF. Dreamer applying with a castle of his own. It seems in some sense a
What's
lot
very similar
safer.
about Ryan and Dreamer, they both love castling.
They both do love cat, which is hilarious. Maybe they're onto something. Everyone memes about how, like I've said countless times on the stream before, you sort of have to like master the rules before you're allowed to break them. I think that both of these players have very good intuition for like the sort of prerequisite like posturing that you have to do before you can castle safely. As I say that, I still think Ryan's position looks super sketch, but hey,
Again, I think it's the exact same thing as the last two games. I think slowly Black is getting back into the game compared to this is also a very good move, because it's gonna he's gonna push e4 as well, which is gonna shut down the diagonal from b1 to g6. But I think it's kind of the same story as in the last two games, whereas just a couple of defensive moves, he's getting himself into some time pressure, and I don't see how Black's getting checkmated yet.
yeah, I think Dreamer has been, he gets himself into like these sort of fantastic smothering positions and then chooses to not commit, I think, for fear of overextending. And you know, that gives a player like Ryan just enough time to, you know, sort of get back on his feet. Ooh, okay. Counter push preempting e4 before
By the
Ryan.
way, actually, uh, if Ryan pushed again and then took the knight, there would have been still a window for check, but it wouldn't.
One thing. Black has to be careful of that e5 is actually hanging. Like he can take on e5 with his knight. And after knight takes, he can take the knight on f6. I think now might be
Take
the
now
time.
and then takes, and then you can capture knight on f6. Give me 1 second to understand why that's true.
Oh, actually, wait, the rook's coming. Never mind, I'm stupid.
Yeah, the rook is covering. Yeah, okay. All right. Hey, I almost suggested mate in 2 a minute ago, so you know.
No, e5 was a good move, but so is e4 in this position. This actually makes a lot of sense. The only thing I don't like about e4 is that now the bishop is kind of gaining some more. Like the black bishop is suddenly alive again.
Right. No, actually, that's a huge deal, right? Yeah. Wow. Wow, interesting
Actually,
how the
like,
tide has
Dreamer
turned.
has to be also careful, because like if next turn Dreamer takes.
Actually, I have a move for you guys. I have
Very
a move.
shrewd. Knight h5.
Knight takes e4.
Lol.
Knight takes e4. Then
Oh,
you can,
knight
I think knight takes.
e4.
It's the same idea, but I think knight takes e4 would have been better actually. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Knight takes
Someone
e4
in the
takes.
chat just pointed as well.
Hmm.
Takes e4.
Okay, completely missed this idea.
Bishop takes. Oh, knight g3 mate. Oh yeah, that's great. Wow, that's super cute.
And this is gonna be a tragedy.
No, but
because I
knight
actually
takes
feel
e4.
like-
I was just thinking knight takes e4. No. And then are you that happy?
Takes e4, knight takes a4.
Knight takes e4, knight
Yeah,
takes
actually,
e4.
no,
then what?
you're right. You're right. This
Yeah.
is a way better move. Way better move. Yeah.
Yeah, that idea is super cute though. Oh
That's-
no,
that's
my
very,
queen,
very well
and then
played.
you get absolutely destroyed.
He's even threatening queen takes h4.
Yeah.
Queen h1.
Yeah, so the idea here for anyone who's like, why did he just give up his queen? This checks this king in the past, and of course there's this pin, very easy to miss. You know, if you're not attuned to this sort of like positional awareness. So this threatening mate in 1 is not fantastic. Of course, this bishop can recapture, so actually what it's threatening is if this bishop doesn't move, then you capture here. And then again, you've taken away the only other defender of the g3 square than this pawn, which is pinned by the bishop. So if takes here and then the knight takes, then you have mate again. So, wow, really shrewd tactical idea here by Ryan, and it's difficult to see immediately how best Dreamer can defend this. Okay, he just gets his king out of the way.
He can actually. What if he? No, man. I was gonna say. He
That
can
makes a
maybe-
lot of sense. I think. Oops, my bad, chat. Sorry about that. Wow.
It's actually rather typical, like in 2D chess.
This is still not easy to.
Oh
break
god,
down.
pushes
So
the
just-
G pawn.
Oh my god, what is this?
Holy shit, dude! That's the ballsiest pop push I've ever seen in my goddamn life. Wow! Holy shit! Okay. That's nutty. I mean, okay, Dreamer down to just about 4 minutes on the clock, less than half the time that Ryan has.
Wait, I actually don't like that. What if I think you can do something like this game is not going to be decided by material, obviously. So I think now might be like a good idea to just maybe sack the knight and then go for like knight takes g5 followed
Yeah,
by queen e2,
Okay, so knight takes g5, h takes g5,
and then again queen e2.
kicks the bishop, queen e2. No, fair enough. So then you can't capture, otherwise you get wrecked.
Then if the knight has to move back, you can then take on g5.
Yeah,
Like the knight can't move back.
Interesting.
I guess it can
interesting.
go to. I think it can go.
Wow,
to
okay,
g7.
Dreamer opts just to capture. The pawn here threatening the rook, and I suppose opening the
He
diagonal
wants
to
queen
f7.
d3.
He wants queen
Queen
d3 to jump over here. Ah, okay. That
Now
makes a
rook
lot of
g6
sense.
looks
Wow.
very
Okay.
good.
Ryan just
I like
occupying.
white again. I like white again.
Ryan occupying g6
Like
with
white
his
here?
rook, which is interesting.
I like white here.
What's the idea? Is the idea to pull back to g7 and just have that rook cover?
I
Forever?
actually now like black. I forgot about the rook. And that it can
It's
swing
crazy
on-
that no travels have been played so far this match. That's true. At the highest levels of 5D chess, again, it's all about... Wow, okay, so queen d3 played anyway. Yeah, I think probably as Ryan, you just pulled back rook g7, right?
Oh no, he can't. I don't think.
Explain.
Like, this is super complicated.
This also enables him, by the way, to... Oh no, it prevents sort of Dreamer's ideas of...
It's not an immediate sweat, but it's gonna be a sweat eventually. But moreover, it also like the thing is that black can pretty much never capture. I think. Like,
You don't
this
think
is-
black can
this-
capture the
this-
bishop on h4?
No, wait.
It's the threat. You've got the rook there blocking now.
Like I mean, the knight's just gonna be captured, right?
And
Yeah, and then you pull the rook back to g7. And you win material. You've got a queen that can hop in as well. Like if the knight recaptures, then I don't know. Maybe you just
But,
immediately
like,
play queen.
F5 is also weak.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah. So immediate queen f5 from Dreamer.
now bishop takes f2.
Jumping onto the weakness.
No, he
Bishop
just went
takes
x9.
f2. Then what? Interesting. Wow. Okay. Yeah, I wasn't in love with knight recapture there, because queen
Queen
g5 sets up a battery,
He might be able
right?
to take on g2.
What if bishop takes f2 and if queen takes h5, knight f6, and queen is trapped?
Wait, what?
No, it isn't trapped. It isn't
No,
trapped.
it's not trapped, right? Because it can move back.
G-
To f5?
What?
No. Ryan
but I-
hopping in. Okay, collapsing on the g2 pawn here. We're making efforts to with knight f4. Wow. Okay, interesting. Captures. Huh.
It's
Ri-
easy to
Ryan-
comment, but like if I would have, if I was one of the players, I would have been like so paranoid here.
Yeah, for real. It was like an
As you-
incredibly
as you
volatile
should be.
position.
Like this is one of those positions where probably like you might go wrong on every move. That being said,
Yeah,
Yeah,
evaluation is
why-
going to sway wildly here, move to move. Dreamer's
White-
got his
White
back
needs to
against
do
the
something
wall.
right
2.5
now.
minutes on the clock, compared to Ryan sitting much more comfortably.
I think
the
I
head
think
of
if you have 2
7.
minutes on the clock here, I think you take on d5 and pray.
You
Yeah.
take on d5 and pray. Take on e5.
On e5, sorry.
At
Yeah,
least,
you take on
yeah.
e5 and pray. There's no other practical option.
Okay. Getting this knight in the game is going to be a game changer. But what do you... Takes... Oh my god, so complicated. Holy... It's got to be said, Dreamer's d2 knight is just so much less useful than the b6 bishop. Well, I guess it's arguable. But I think probably, well, if like takes and then knight f3, I guess it's...
I mean, this is for sure losing for right now. I think you can even play something like queen g5 and just be safe, I guess, if you want to.
Okay, so we do get the trade-off. We're gonna see Dreamer activate his other knight probably onto f3 here in a second. Oh, he takes the other knight.
Yeah.
Which makes sense because that's the one that's threatening, you know, the g2 and h3 pawns, which is a lot more scary than.
But he's
whatever
just
this
gonna play
knight's
queen
doing.
g5 now, and I think this game's over.
queen g5, form the queen rook battery.
Oh, why not queen takes d4 or d5?
I mean,
Because
it's just simpler. It's just
there
simpler.
are
I
travels
think.
on d2.
Checking queen travels just to be safe before.
Or this.
Wow, he has
Interesting.
no fear.
2.5 minutes on the clock here. It just does seem a lot less straightforward. Well, I don't know. Okay, queen g5, and then you just trade queens, and
You up
then
the piece. But you still have the attacking position.
you are up a piece, aren't you? Huh. Okay. Wow.
It has to be. This is such a weird one because. Like in this type of position, if I were black, I would for sure look to like somehow get the queens traded.
I really like the intermezzo, like 93 there.
It probably doesn't matter. Like this looks too scary.
Pretty crushing. Material advantage really difficult to overcome here for white.
Yeah, and black seems actually safe. Even to the point that I wouldn't be paranoid here.
Wow.
But it can all. I don't know.
In this position as white, you're just looking for Jurassic Queen. Like you have no attacking ideas left in this position, like on this timeline. So you're just looking at Jurassic, and that's what Ryan's looking at as well. He's looking at some potential, like how white could set it up, but it just yeah, it all seems a little too late.
I really
it's
don't
tough.
think that. Yeah, I don't think that white has the defensive resources here to make it happen. Right? You can't get your F rook to defend g2 because there's the double attack onto the f2 pawn here, so you can't like scooch over your rooks in time. You can.
Yeah. I mean, he's probably gonna play like knight e4 here.
Yeah, I was
guess.
thinking knight e4 kicks the queen and sets up like potentially like you can push up your rook or something like that. Okay, the travel now happens with the queen rook battery onto g2, but is not submitted. He changes his mind.
No way he's gonna travel here. No, he sees that he's.
He
gonna
doesn't
get
have
Jurassic
to,
Justice.
right?
Why doesn't he just take the queen? Just take the queen.
Suppose
then
there's no reason. Yeah, just play off of your material advantage, right? You can pick off the pawn
and
as well.
not just your material advantage. Like you're still attacking. Like black's
Yeah,
the only
yeah.
one that's attacking.
Recapture
you
the
don't even have
pawn
to
is
take
super
the pawn.
spooky. Yeah.
Queen takes d5 also is. It's at least forcing. Oh, maybe the Dreamer or Jurassic. So yeah, maybe just exchange queens. Oh yeah.
Checking Jurassics now. Wow, that queen can go. Can that queen go back forever?
Yeah,
I actually think it
in
can,
the
right?
light of Jurassics, probably just take.
That's gonna happen, but yeah, I would really like to see queen trade here from black.
Well, now Dreamer is almost forced to Jurassic actually.
I guess Ryan thinks that it's easier to convert in this position than he is confident in like the 2D endgame against Dreamer. Okay, I mean Dreamer's got 30 seconds on the clock.
Okay. And still Ryan cannot travel, right? Because of Jurassic.
That queen's Jurassic's, but I think much less far. But it will be able to recapture from that space. So if Ryan captures here, then a queen Jurassic will be able to recapture onto g2 from the other timeline. Now you can go back and threaten to travel, and Ryan can't, and and then Dreamer can't Jurassic if he goes back,
But
because he blocks his own Jurassic.
isn't pawn already defended?
I think it's the turn before the queen gets to g4, right?
They're just repeating. Like, this is,
Yeah.
this is
Draw
so
by
funny.
repetition. 20 seconds on the clock. Maybe he's just throwing it back to Dreamer, trying to flag him. It is working. He's got 10 seconds on the clock now. Ryan, all the time in the world. Dreamer considering whether he wants to Jurassic or keep playing on board. What do we see? This stream's a little bit laggy. We do see Queen G5 back on the board. Ryan considering his options. Queen travel might now be an option, but I'm not sure. We'd have to see. I think a queen trade now is as good a time as any. You've wasted an extra like 20
Literally
seconds
the
off your
same
opponent's back. Yeah. Repetition
Oh, but now,
is never just repetition in
now
5D.
Ryan
No,
took
it's
the
true.
plot.
Yeah, now he
This-
trades.
this game is
Wow,
such a
what a
mystery.
guy.
Like I don't like
Look at
these
this.
guys. I don't know if they're just nervous as hell, but this is very very strange to watch from
I'm
this level.
sure.
Okay, he finally
Wow.
takes. He finally takes.
Wow, that's absolutely fantastic.
Now he just wins. Yeah.
Okay. Knight f3 played, kicking the knight on d3. Also, he's got 5 seconds on the clock, so it's not like he can be too choosy. Well, he won a pawn with this repetition play. He certainly won almost all of the time on the clock, which I think is commendable. Putting pressure on that g2 pawn again.
Yeah, it's very bad.
This is again a little bit strange because like the only way you lose this as black is if you somehow allow like some Jurassic.
Dreamer at
So
3
some-
seconds on the
some
clock.
Jurassic
Also hoping maybe that
Rook
Ryan
to-
blunders
yeah.
something. Maybe some crazy night travel, gives him like a free win here. But there's okay, he's going to capture now on g2. Force the issue.
Remove knight h3.
Dreamer doesn't have very many options. All he can do is sacrifice the rook on d3 in order to prevent knight h3 mate. Ryan likely, I think, to probably just take. He's taking his time looking at travels. If he captures, I don't see how Dreamer... well, I guess he takes the rook.
This is so strange. This is so funny. to look at.
Dreamer actually not super duper dead here. Oh no, he is at... No, because there's the... Dreamer isn't immediately
He can play.
dead
He can
here.
play Rook G3.
You can
Yeah,
play
I
rook
don't even Rook
g3.
h3 too.
Taking the free piece. Well, okay. You give up the rook. Then
I mean, no,
check.
you don't give up the rook because
Oh, he's gonna do it. He's gonna go for the
Oh my
snipe
god, he
point.
plays rook g3, blocking the d3 rook from being able to defend against knight h3 mate. Okay, the trade happens here.
and now
Okay, now
what-
Dreamer's Dreamer has to defend against knight h3 mate immediately. If he moves his king forward, then that enables Ryan to travel and mate. All he can do is buy a little bit of time with this travel. He's got 1 second on the clock, but he's doubled his delay up to 10 seconds. Ryan with a very quick king h8, throwing to Dreamer, asking him, what are you going to do? You're about to get mated in 1, and you have 1 second on the clock. Is Dreamer's...
That seems like a
Ryan's
problem.
turn now. He can deliver knight h3 check on both boards, and that is going to be it. Ryan securing in game 3 a victory with the black pieces. The answer that he needed after getting blown out 2-0 in the first 2 games. Ryan showing signs of life. Wow.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're a dreamer here, you gotta be kicking yourself because he was obviously like in a crushing position the entire time. Just again, like he didn't get punished for it in the first 2 games, but just a little bit of a defensive approach, which gives just one opportunity, which is all that Ryan needed there to strike back with this nice tactic, and somehow which is what you often see from just good players, is that even pieces that can sometimes be displaced can sometimes get into the game just by like natural development, and they make it look easy. Like as we were saying, like with the bishop on b6, for example, which was pushed back into completely defensive position and then turned out to be such an asset for black, allowing this tactic and getting him the win here as black in turn 0.
Wow. Yeah, again, you push that advantage, the tempo advantage, and try to smother the black player with the white pieces like that. As soon as you take your foot off the pedal and allow the black player to sort of stabilize. Now you're in a position where you're just a little bit overextended. You get kicked back and suddenly your opponent has all of the momentum. Ryan Superfan, thank you for the follow.
Is it Ryan's alt
It might be
account?
Ryan's alt account. I don't know. But after the previous game, you know what? You can consider me a super fan as well. And that was really well played by Ryan. I think that Dreamer did have a really oppressive position there. Like Lexi said, opting to sort of not push his advantage, play in, I'm sure, what in his mind was a little bit more like conservatively and solidly shoring up his position rather than you know, pushing aggressively, which worked out for him in the first 2 games, but unfortunately here at the very end, succumbing to the counter push. I can't believe, thinking back to the point where Ryan castled kingside and then pushed G5 like out of that structure, Dreamer getting wrecked like that. Actually, I think the counter castle really did Dreamer like a monumental injustice. Now that I think back to that, he like rattled it off thinking, oh shit, fantastic, we both gain king safety, but this fool has like pushed up all of his kingside pawns and he's about to get destroyed. I think that if you don't castle there kingside as Dreamer, you probably don't get nearly as wrecked, which is insane.
Yeah, but the knight h5 was a very nice move by Ryan.
Knight h5 was a fantastic find, right as Lexi was suggesting it as well. Wow. Beautiful. So exciting. After the first 2 games, I was a little nervous because, you know, I mean, as mentality as well, this is the biggest stage that there has ever been for the game of 5D chess. You know, tourney nerves have got to be kicking in at some point. You're down 0-2. You know, maybe you get nervous. Ryan showing that he's got the composure. He's got the nerves of steel. He came here to win. He brushed himself off, you know, and he came back. It was absolutely fantastic. Wow. And now he's got the white pieces. So winning with the black pieces as well, you've got to be feeling good, especially in turn 0, which I think is, of all these variants, probably the variant where it matters the most, where where it's most possible to sort of push the tempo advantage out of the opening. As white, very interesting. And out of that asymmetric position as well, you could tell that Ryan was a lot more comfortable, I think, than Dreamer. You know, Dreamer kind of playing like the structure that is most, I mean, I'd call it the Dreamer, maybe, especially with like the queen d2 or whatever, or queen c2. You know, after like pushing up all the pawns with like the London structure and everything. And then Ryan with the early rook c8, pushing c5 to sort of probe the center. I think you could tell that he was a lot more comfortable, especially with his time lead out of the opening, than Dreamer was. Maybe kind of caught him off guard. I don't know. We'll see. See what happens next game. IDK, I think Ryan could have had counterplay on e3 without short castle, but we don't get to see how that would have went. I think that castling freed up his pieces in a major way, especially with that queen causing problems on b5. I don't know. I think that castle was, you know, it was sort of like a snap decision that I think really paid off there in the position. I think you had to have guts to do it, but I still think that it's pretty sketchy against a non-castle retaliation. I don't know. What a wild game. We're talking about Dreamer's castle. Oh, sorry. I think that let me see again. Let's read the. No, I think IDK. I think Ryan could have had counterplay on e3 without short castle. Ah, you're saying that even if Dreamer didn't castle, that Ryan had opportunities to collapse onto e3. I'm not sure that I'm convinced, especially with Dreamer's h1 knight just hanging out. But I don't know. Tony wants to see Ryan go for e4 this game, and he is a believer, meaning he has predicted that Ryan he's got channel points riding on Ryan. But you know, his his inner E4 stan getting the better of him there. If Ryan goes E4 this game, like out of the opening, I might just lose my mind. I don't know. As a reminder to anyone who's just joining us, this is the 5D Chess World Championship. The winner of this set will be crowned our very first 5D Chess World Champion. The prediction market, more channel points than ever before are on the table. About 450 grand, 60% believe in Ryan, the plurality of those channel points being posted up by Ryan himself. 40% in favor of Dreamer. I think that I really think that these two going into this, anyone would tell you that it's basically like a 50-50. I really don't think that I could personally, as a spectator, choose a favorite between the two. We've got a bit of the old guard in Dreamer, who's been playing since almost the game's inception, versus Ryan, who kind of decided, as we saw in the prologue before the match began, on a whim to pick up 5D chess because not enough people played Chess Evolved Online competitively, which was his chess adjacent game of choice. But hey, here we are, launching straight into Game 4 of the 5D Chess World Championship Grand Finals. We have Ryan for CEO with the white pieces in the variant of turn 0. Ryan taking the first of 2 turn 0 games with the black pieces. Dreamer, of course, prior to that, won the first 2 games where the variant was reversed royalty. So we are currently, the score is 2-1 in Dreamer's favor. Ryan looking to tie it up going into our 3rd variant, and Dreamer just attempting to hold on with the black pieces. We'll see what happens. How's the feeling in the room right now? Lexi, talk to me.
Actually just returned. I didn't even know. I'm not even sure you noticed I was gone.
No,
but,
I did. I was trying to
I would say this
professionally fill the dead air and not bring attention to the fact that I was in the booth on my own there for a few minutes. But, you know, thank you.
Well, I mean, it's my pleasure to just drop in here and fill the dead air. That being said, I think this is going to be a tough task for Dreamer for sure. Surely can't be great for your confidence dropping a game as wide in this variant, especially after such a crushing advantage. So we might see some switch up here. I think one thing he will probably try to work on this game is playing a little bit faster, which seems to be a recurring theme.
Right. The time advantage definitely a huge factor in the previous game. Of course, Ryan, after his initial 2 losses, a consummate professional, bounces back, gets his head back in the game, and takes the 3rd game. We're going to have to see now whether Dreamer can prevent himself from being shaken by that loss with the white pieces in a game where he had, some might describe as a really sort of crushing oppressive position out of the mid game. Andre, we see Dreamer here coming out with an E3 opening, which I don't see a lot of out of Dreamer. Of course, you've got a lot more E3 experience than any of the rest of us. What are the ideas
what's
here?
Going on here? What's this seems like an insane opening for turn 0. Like, what's stopping Black here from just going like knight g5?
What's stopping Black from going knight g5? Well, what is the idea? I guess
I'm gonna sack on f2 and win.
Okay, so knight g5, maybe like I don't know, e3, sack on f2, and then captures with the king.
Oh, probably just fine, right?
Just what?
Castles.
But if you castle, I can take the knight and then take on h2.
Yeah, right.
Castles?
I'm already
Take
confused what's going on here.
Oh yeah, maybe you're right. I don't know. This I've seen Ryan go for a lot of these like c4 openings in turn 0 as white. It's some of the, I think it's less common, so I suppose kind of like English style openings. I think that it's pretty good against like the London type or French type question mark, you know, like d5 opening from Black, but I think that it feels a lot more vulnerable, especially with this queenside frappuccino, against the e3 openings. So what do you think of this, Andre? What are Dreamer's ideas here? coming out of the opening.
In most of the game where Dreamer played knight h6 or a6 or knight a3, he won.
Okay.
Can I just say I really don't like this opening for white. Not because I think white's like in trouble or anything, but just because I feel like it's not posing, it's like not taking advantage of the imbalance here, whereas white's putting immediate problems to black.
Yeah, but that's actually sort of Ryan's style.
That really is Ryan's. Yeah, especially like in defended pawn, where his go-to is just get out of the opening without any possible like shenanigans, like degenerate, sort of travels or counterplay out of the opening.
The
Get
Magnus
like a
Carlsen
solid
approach.
position, kingside, and from there, just play the game of chess, push up your pieces. It's not like he's losing tempo here. He's just not going for anything that potentially could overextend. He's sort of quite content.
I mean, this is certainly a good position for white. Like I'm still not entirely sure what white response would be to something like knight g4. I guess it's like still pretty early, and he's
Wow, straight up
just
g5, a very Ryan move coming out of Dreamer. Interesting. What can somebody tell me what the hell this knight on a6 is doing?
Well,
help the brother out.
He's looking to jump on c5.
Yeah,
What
if-
prevents like b5 or sorry b4 from Ryan?
What?
B4.
I'm actually wait. I need a moment here. I'm confused about this g5 move. I wonder what the idea is, because he doesn't. I don't think he wants to push g4 here. If he pushes g4, white's just gonna go knight h4 and protect the bishop on g2. This seems like pretty weakening. I guess maybe he wants the fianchetto for the bishop.
Well, it's Dreamer, so I think like he kind of wants to maybe like get a queen on f6 and then castle queenside or something like that. I don't know. I see this position as Dreamer or with Dreamer controlling the pieces, and I think he really wants to castle queenside.
I can see that. I think it's a little bit dangerous because you got opposite fianchettos.
Yeah.
Actually,
But I mean, Ryan's setting up to castle kingside himself anyway, so.
Yeah, true. I mean, G5 in a way makes some sense because it takes away bishop f4 as well.
E4. What a chat. Interesting. E4 coming out, which is kind of wacky. I mean, everything is like sort of delicately in balance. There isn't any crazy like knight bishop sacrifice that opens up the diagonal in like a meaningful way. It's just a waste right now, but e4 in a position like this can possibly be a liability. I think bishop e3 or something like that is probably coming in a second.
For sure.
I like something like knight c5 here. Maybe
Knight c5 here for Dreamer.
Would you-
Knight c5 actually is pretty spooky, isn't it? Huh?
well, still actually Ryan will have enough defenders on e4.
Yeah. Well, with what, like queen e2 or something instead of like bishop e3, if knight c.
I mean, I gotta say, I'm not in love with e4. I mean, I'm always in love with e4. Don't get me wrong. But it does kind of shut down your g2 bishop in this position. It
True.
gives some more space for sure. And I think in some variants we might even see some ideas like knight d5 here, where he just jumps in his knight, and he's gonna castle obviously. He's getting ready to castle. That's why he played e4, and then just try to break open the center. I think we might see some knight d5 ideas here. Play castles.
Right, castles, knight d5 here. Can't take like this, take like this, and then you probe the e6 pawn here. Wonder if maybe. Well, okay. Annoyingly, you can't like put your bishop on d6 as black. Then again, okay, inviting e5 maybe is like actually better for black. Even if
e5 doesn't work because you can take on f3 in between.
You can take on f3. Very nice, right? Of course. Okay.
I think Black's just gonna Fianchetto his bishop here, and put some pressure on the C3 knight maybe.
Mm.
I think White's gonna. I'm pretty sure that he's gonna castle next move.
Do you think the
otherwise
Fianchetto? Because I do think that Dreamer, like, he really likes to prioritize king safety. You don't think that he wants to pull his bishop to the other side, so it's like closer to his queen side, so that he can maybe queenside castle, and then he'll still be staring down the white king side structure?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of options here. You could also, of course, if he wants to queenside castle, you can just play queen e7 now.
Yeah.
But I think queenside
Wow,
castle
queen
is dangerous
e7 here,
because
straight up.
You've such a big hole on b5.
You do have a big hole on b5, that's for sure. I was thinking maybe, yeah, that's why I was looking at like bishop d6 so that it's not trapped, and then you queen e7. It's pretty slow, but also, I don't know. Actually, it's probably just too slow.
I don't think you can queenside castle here as black. I think knight b5 is too strong.
Yeah, knight b5 here.
And keep in mind, like the white can always reopen the diagonal on by pushing e4, e5 at some point.
All right, straight up goes
but
for the bishop e3, like we said earlier, relieving the pressure off of this e4 pawn.
This is a very nice structure for white. This is just a very good position.
I agree. Also with the c4 pawn, it's got to be said, actually, it really does limit. It hampers black's options, because, I mean, imagine that we get a queenside castle and then a kingside castle for white. I mean, really quickly, just after b4, suddenly, with this little structure here, like the a3, b4, c4, d3 chain, you know, you're like knocking on black's door.
With before, you have to be a little bit careful that black might just sacrifice his knight there to get his queen into the game.
True, but I was thinking post castle.
Oh yeah, post castle for sure. I probably would prefer castling here, because I'm actually not sure what white does if you go knight g4 here, because now the bishop is a little bit vulnerable, and I don't think you want to castle after that. I mean, maybe you can, but I think knight g4 is a good opportunity for black. Try to get more development in, like knight g4 and then bishop g2. I mean, bishop g7. You basically have to play bishop g7 anyway now because you just blocked it with your queen.
Yeah. Knight g4. Interesting. Yeah, knight g4. Then what do you do actually? It's really annoying if you don't want him to trade. You don't want to trade off the e3 bishop, right?
Actually, it might be not that bad because then we have an open file.
Yeah, you're okay. I think it depends. I think it depends on whether you can actually like commit and take advantage of the. Then again, Dreamer's pieces aren't really positioned in a way that he can like pressure. Okay, I really like this actually. I really like this Fianchetto staring down the knight on c3. I think that this makes knight g4 a much bigger headache.
Yes. It also takes any before ideas out of the position.
Right.
Because now
right.
the knight is loose on c3.
Right. Alright, I'm very briefly hovering over it. Otherwise, I think p4 is a very Ryan move in the position. Yeah, setting up the structure and then just this, you know, he's in no hurry to castle. I think it's probably wise. I mean, he doesn't really have to right now. Although, I don't know, last turn it might have been a decent time to squeeze one in.
He might take a moment to play h3 here. To just take this knight g4 idea. Or he might move his knight, actually. He might play something like knight d4.
Oh, knight d4. Interesting. Yeah. Oh yeah, maybe knight d4.
He's controlling the g4 square again. The knight's in a little bit of a more active position.
Yeah, well, okay, so knight d4 and then maybe c5?
5?
You can maybe afford. And then what's your knight doing?
You can just take it with a knight, right?
Knight d4, c5.
What do you mean by black?
Yeah. After knight d4 by white, like c5 in response. Well, then again, I guess you just jump back to f3, and now your opponent's got a much worse structure.
I think if you play something like c5, then white can even go like knight b4, and then knight b5, sorry, and then the black knight is stranded on a6.
Yeah,
forever.
the black knight's stranded, and yeah, and then you're absolutely wrecked on b5. That's a good point, especially.
I'm also still looking. First of all, I like castles here. Probably still would have preferred knight d4, but I mean it's not going anywhere. I think black really should take this opportunity though to get this bishop via knight g4.
I agree. I like the knight g4 here. Man, this a6 knight really does seem not fantastic.
He could also castle himself, I guess. No, he can't. It's
wait, what? Castle
scary.
how? Yeah, I'd be sketched out either way.
I mean, long castles is not in the position at all.
You think? I don't know, especially if you're gonna kamikaze the knight on f6. Short castle seems kind of scary.
No, short castle. I think short castle might be even worse than long castle.
So knight
This is a
g4
tough
here.
position to play.
Knight g4 here. What do you do as white? Because it's there's also the discovered attack on the c3 knight, which I mean maybe is a trade you don't want to make as Dreamer anyway. But
I think
back?
if black plays knight g4, I think you just play queen e2 and
queen
accept
E2.
that your bishop gets traded.
yeah, I think that makes sense.
I mean, maybe you have some counter tactic like knight takes g5, but no, I don't think so. No, it doesn't work.
Once again, Dreamer falling a little bit behind on the clock here. Almost half his time used, a quarter used by Ryan. These types of positions are really difficult to play. It feels like everything
tough
is
to
a little
find
too
depth,
weakening. No single move is sort of, really developing like a fantastic. There's no like offensive theme that you can put together in like just a handful of moves. And if you set up your pieces, you don't want to overextend in a way that you'll get kicked back. And so it can be really difficult to formulate a plan here. I think this is, these are sort of like the most pivotal moves that'll determine what our end game looks like. I think that probably Dreamer's strength, especially as like as a classical player, is sort of like coming up with game plans in situations like this. But I definitely think that this is many 5D chess players' weakness, is just coming up with a game plan, trying to figure out what you do in a position like this where your pieces are sort of developed but not really you can't really like put together any combination, and you don't want to like overextend or put any holes introducing like vulnerabilities into your own structure. So I don't know. Andre, what would you be thinking in Dreamer's shoes here?
Have the positions where nobody is being checkmated.
I think black has two moves here. I think he can go either knight g4 or just g4. And the idea of g4 being to maybe just run down on the king side, like preparing to push h4, h5, h4.
If g4, knight h4, and how do you push?
If knight h4, then you're just happy with knight h4, because knight h4 means the knight is out of the game. It has no squares.
Well, I don't know. Is f4 really being defended by like the pawn on e6? Especially if you like reposition your either you put like a rook on the e file or a queen on the e file.
I mean, yeah, that's certainly the next idea I would be looking at as at for white. It's sort of a similar idea to what I suggested before, which was knight d5.
Right.
But okay, I mean, he's gone for knight g4, which is I think just a simple solution.
Knight g4, really, Dreamer really taking his time coming up with that move. He's got 9 minutes on the clock, 15 for Ryan. Very slowly meandering through this mid game. Now that Ryan's all set up, he is in a position where he can much more comfortably assert his presence in the center of the board here. He had to have expected this move out of Dreamer. Question is, What is
Oh,
the
knight
best
takes g5
response?
doesn't work here because then black just captures on e3.
Sorry. Oh, knight takes g5. Interesting.
If after knight takes g5, the queen would recapture, or like, I guess the pawn would recapture, the knight would be hanging. But the problem is that black can take in between on e3.
Very good. Right.
Then
Knight
knight just hanging.
takes.
I think
Rook
there's a follow-up.
takes. Boom. And takes. And then actually, you've really given yourself a headache probably with the open H file.
Yeah.
Potentially. Man, it really
I mean, it just loses a piece.
Unlike the previous few games, I think that Dreamer was doing a much better job of sort of like coordinating his pieces, and especially in the reverse royalty games, and even in the previous turn 0 game. The knight and the rook over here feel out of place. I mean, of course, the rooks are going to be on their home squares, you know, like at this point in the game, but I don't know. It just doesn't feel like Dreamer's pieces are like super well coordinated here. It's got like the bishops on opposite ends of the board.
Just keep it simple. Keep your space advantage, and then try to push in the center.
Yeah.
And remove. And you're actually happy with that trade as white, I think, because you're taking away a piece that's close to your king.
It is his only active piece as well.
Yes, because the knight and the bishop on the queen side are probably not going to join any attack anytime soon, because white's the one that can choose to activate the bishops on g2 and b7.
This feels like a bit of a role reversal. I think that this super well. Then again, okay, actually, I take that back. I was about to suggest that maybe Ryan is playing in a very Dreamer type way. But he's doing less of like stifling his opponent's options and more just setting up a very solid position and enabling his. Wow. Okay, we see knight d5. Interesting. Okay, well, it does defend the bishop on e3, which would be like a fantastic repositioning for his piece. It does give up the b2 pawn if like takes happens. I don't know the extent to which that matters. Maybe like the half open file is actually like preferred.
I'm actually confused about this move. Why can't black just take the knight with the bishop and then take the bishop on e3?
By the way, my move it drops the queen, so ignore that.
Yeah,
my bad.
but like, what's the problem with just bishop takes d5 here?
Probably you don't really have another option. Well, I mean, I guess that's just your
the bishop takes d5, then we get the same position, but now we exchanged the knight for the bishop.
Yeah.
But this is getting like white's making some holes there, because after bishop takes d5, c takes d5, then you can take on e3, and after pawn takes back, you can play something like queen c5 even and threaten checkmate.
You can also take on b2.
And yeah, and but the main thing is at the end of the day, white has a bad bishop on g2, whereas black's dark squared bishop is going to be very strong.
True.
I think this is a good idea, but I don't think this was the right time to go for knight d5. Unless there's something else after. I guess
queen e2 is particularly nice because it defends the b2 pawn as well, which kind of like shores up the whole, allowing you to make knight d5 happen.
I honestly don't care about b2 pawn at all here.
I mean, when the dust settles, you know, like if you make these trades, I don't know, b2, and then you just let the bishop hang out there forever. Then you're like you're down pawns, and you know, I don't know, you like castle queenside or something, and like a little bit maneuver your pieces over onto that side, and then your opponent has fewer pawns there. I mean, I certainly think it's tough to evaluate, but I don't know, in a position where there aren't like clear sort of like 5D tactical ideas, I don't know. I think it's a concern.
If black doesn't have anything concrete, I kind of like black here, or white here actually. Because like bishop takes, c pawn takes, knight takes, f takes. Then like queen c5, we just play g4. And we have like a pawn cube in the center almost.
I guess I just I just didn't think this was necessary to go for these mass exchanges.
Dreamer really taking his time though. He's 6 minutes on the clock, half the time of Ryan now.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like he might be considering to just take it with the pawn, but it seems a little bit insane.
Yeah, I mean, good
mean,
question, right? You have
might
to
just work,
answer.
but-
Those are your options, right? Take with the pawn or take with the bishop. I mean, I guess the pawn is a real asset. If I mean, listen, you have the freedom to castle either direction with your
Taking with
king. It
actually is
seems
not-
maybe ill-advised, but if you're going to trade away for, you're going to trade. If you're gonna get that knight out of there and you're gonna trade for the bishop on e3, then maybe you're like, okay, I feel fine castling.
He's just going for this variation, which seems simple enough. Like
Okay,
it
interesting.
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how white recaptures. He's gonna take on e3 next, for sure. Just
don't think it
close
matters
down the diagonal as well,
how you
like
recapture?
the file.
Yeah, maybe you're right.
Yeah, and now he just said to wait. He can take the pawn
He's
even
got
now if he wants
the
to.
pawn diamond. That's what I'm saying, fam. You take the pawn, it is probably fine. Opening up the f file.
No, not the
Probably
b2
nice for.
pawn, the d pawn.
Oh, the d pawn. D pawn takes. I don't
It
know.
looks scary, but it looks scary. But I think he can actually.
Oh, okay, Dreamer goes ahead and castles.
It's probably not a good move. It's probably not a good move. But
Dreamer goes ahead and
that was the
castles.
next thing I was gonna say, that he might be able to castle now.
Yeah.
It's a little bit sketchy
I
because
think black's better here.
You think black is better here? Well, I suppose it is simple enough now for him to reposition the knight by way of c5. Then again, no. Where does it go from there?
well, why is black better? Basically, only because of like the
Because of the bishops. Because black's bishop is on the dark squares, which are the weak spots in white camp. Like white has one very clear weakness, which is on e3, and I think he's going to be able to collapse on that. And white's bishop basically can't attack.
What about b4 there? Am I crazy?
black's knight is a little bit out of the game.
Yeah. Well, okay. I guess this achieves the same thing, but being a lot sort of like more solid.
What's the problem with just taking on d5 now?
Well, I don't think that there is necessarily any problem. Oh yeah, I just realized the e3 pawn's hanging, huh? Yeah, no, actually, yeah, Dreamer just takes. How did this happen? Because the pieces that were traded off feels like they were, it was like Dreamer's bishop that was staring down Ryan's kingside and his forward knight were traded off, and somehow he has gained initiative.
I think it was an oversight after knight d5. I think he was banking on e takes d5 instead of bishop takes d5.
Ah, okay.
Because there's no way he saw this position. It was like, this is what he wants to go for out of what he had earlier.
Wow, that's wild how that happened.
I mean, it's still very much a game because black has a very bad knight still on
Right.
a6.
I still fail to understand, but hey, Dreamer is running his back up against the clock here once again. He's got 4 minutes. Ryan's sitting much more comfortably at 11.
No, white will have something like queen c2 and then
Dude, maybe like queen c2 and then you like double the rooks.
I mean, at worst, I think you can trade queen c always as black.
Oh, also queen c2, you do have to answer so that you don't get traveled on.
yeah, that's what
I think you play c5 here as black and try to break open the structure from white completely. And if queen c2, you can just block with your own queen.
Oh, actually, was there a crazy... No, it's like way too late. I was thinking of a crazy anti-castle travel onto the bishop.
Yeah.
Like from the diagonal, but I don't think it works.
I think it will. That's like the first I look at.
Oh, wow, this battery. All right, so caveman brain thinks, okay, queen takes.
We might see...
Oh, interesting. Queen e4 by Dreamer.
I think that's forced.
Just to block the diagonal. I think you're probably right. There's no better way to defend, and it is really annoying for white to deal with. You know, like f3 being kicked by that pawn that's backed by the rook on e8 is a little annoying to deal with. Huh.
I think Black's in a very, very good spot now, but it's gonna be hard to convert with the time situation for him.
True, he's got 3.5 minutes on the
he needs to
clock.
play this precisely to get this over within 3 minutes.
Yeah, and I think it's going to involve, man, that is just the worst knight of all time. He needs like 4 moves to get anywhere into position.
Queen e2 was a nice move because it not only threatens some knight discovery on the queen, but also it threatens c takes d5, and then the queen's hitting the knight.
C takes d5, and then the queen is hitting the knight. Great point. Yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, wow. Now that I look at it. Well, okay, so what you... Oh, I guess maybe you'd want to play...
He has to play queen g4 now, I think.
I feel like
to get out of the
knight
discovery.
d2, and then you're really annoyed, and then you lose this one central pawn, and then... Oh, jeez.
He can't allow any knight discovery. He has to play. I think queen g4 is probably the move here.
And we do see queen g4 coming out of Dreamer. 2.5 minutes on the clock. Slightly Manka-esque. Wow, interesting.
But now I think you can just take on d4 and be kind of happy. I guess he could also go back. Wait, he might
take
he
where?
Might
take on d5?
No, I think you take now. Yeah, you take now, and then you play queen d3 again.
Kicking the knight back. It's arguably even more useless than it was before. Now what do you do?
Now this is getting sketchy.
This is getting spicy. Wow, the tide's turning
Now we can play queen d3.
I wonder if queen d3 makes sense. I was thinking maybe what if like queen f2, preparing like h3, and then
you have a lot of tricks here. Like after queen d3, if queen e4 blocks, you can trade queens and then take on g5, and then the rook's hanging.
And then take where?
g5 after queen.
Ah, yeah, discovered attack on the rook.
No.
Interest. Okay. Ryan pressing the advantage here.
We might see f5 here or something crazy.
Saddest knight of all time. Dreamer, okay, goes straight back, blocks the diagonal, now forcing through the queen trade just as Lexi suggested here. And now capturing on g5 like an absolute Chad. Recapture impossible because the bishop takes here, and that just spells disaster.
This was very, very well executed from white here.
Wow. Now, what do you do as Dreamer? All right, kicking the knight on g5. Also sort of X-ray defending the bishop on g7, which might be relevant in some lines. Winning that pawn, I think, right in front of the king is going to be probably a pretty big deal.
Yeah, this is going to be a tough task.
Really crushing me. Considering the immediate travel, which is interesting. What do you do? Okay, just retreating the knight to f3, which I think is a solid play.
I think you go to h3 and then f4. Okay, but
h3 and then f4. Okay, h3 and then f4. Ryan just going for like doubling his rook. So
he can even play
kicking the rook, almost dropping the g3 pawn.
In 95 here,
which he decides at the last moment is not a great move. Opting for knight e5 instead, really trying to push through here.
And 95 is a nice touch because if he takes now, then White has just the entire center, and also note how the knight is still completely out of the game.
Yeah.
Because now the pawn is blocking it.
Now, if you kick the rook, what happens? Because rook takes and then pawn takes, like bishop takes, is not an option. Because then you leave you allow the diagonal to propagate, so that g4 wins in like 3 turns. Interesting. Ryan taking his time. He's got 8 minutes on the clock, just under 2 for Dreamer. We're gonna see how he converts this.
If it's going to be like a rook endgame, then you have to remember like where's the good Jurassic squares.
Yeah.
I think you can just play rook f1 here. And I don't think Black ever wants to take on. I don't think Black ever wants to take the knight or the pawn, I guess, because at the end the king file would be open. Yeah, I like rook f1 here.
Rook f1 may be preparing rook f3, which either opens up h4 or rook f1.
There's also some tricks. There's also some tricks after the knight moves, for example, like the g8 knight. Sorry, the b8 knight. There's some tricks of knight takes f7, and then later bishop a8.
Ah, yeah, okay.
The opportune moment.
Yeah, pushing this pawn, bishop.
Oh yeah, I guess just bishop f3. I guess after
yeah,
opening
that's
this
what
up.
I was thinking.
This is going to be too much for Black.
I think you probably slow push this with.
Actually, White might be even threatening knight takes f7 right now. I think.
Do you think so? Takes.
Takes, then rook f1 check. Then he has to probably block like bishop f6, and then just push like e4 and prepare to push e5.
I don't know, e4, and then you just do like a king g8. No.
Okay, now it doesn't work.
Oh no, okay, sorry, it would be king g7, because otherwise you hang the bishop. So maybe not. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. It was just a weird idea.
Dreamer kicking the. Wow. Okay. Ryan opts for knight takes f7 straight up.
His idea is after rook takes rooks takes, then he goes bishop h3. I think.
Bishop h3.
Oh yeah.
Ah yes. Okay. You've got the 2 diagonals to play for. The c8 one poking toward the king, as well as the one on f5.
And you have an in between check as well.
Devastated, right? You've got oh wow, that is devastating. Oh my goodness.
But no, this is
How do you deal with that? Quite a quandary here. Dreamer potentially mulling over some Jurassic ideas here. It's been a long game, but he's at a massive time deficit, so he's got to worry about that. Wow, okay. Dreamer taking on d4, not giving up the monstrous tactic. Ryan immediately taking advantage of the hole that Dreamer's created in his pawn structure, staring down brutally the c8 square. Dreamer unable to position to reposition his knight on b8.
These guys really want to make sure that the bishops get no squares.
Yeah. No, these bishops are these bishops are getting absolutely brutalized.
I mean, he has to go.
Now this rook is kind of immortal because like if king takes, then rook f7 check. Yeah, rook f7 check, and then rook travels a little back, and it's like a Tchaikovsky with a rook.
Wow, you're absolutely correct, Andre. Oh my god, that's brilliant. Okay. Wow. So here, check, and then this rook travels back so that the rook from the new timeline on f7 checks the king on this timeline. Wow.
Yeah, and this defends that rook.
Gorgeous Tchaikovsky, dude. This is and then Black flags, an absolutely crushing position for White. That was a brilliant tactical idea there at the end. Holy butts. Wow. Ryan answering back. What a response.
Yeah.
2-0 right out of the gate for Dreamer, going up both with the black and the white pieces in the reverse royalty games. A very quick turn 0 2-0 from Ryan. Turn 0, the more sort of the variant that's had a lot more time to breathe. It's been a lot more developed, and that Dreamer's got a lot more experience in. As Ryan, you have to be happy about that. You certainly have to have regained some of the confidence from the first two games. Now the momentum is on his side. This is all going to come down to the third variant, which is going to be...
Yeah, what's going to be?
I don't know what it's going to be. It's
Better
probably
be
not going to
defended
be
pawn.
Princess. Defended pawn, I think, is Ryan's... Ryan is very comfortable with defended pawn. So I'd be surprised. I'm going to anticipate that Ryan bans Princess and Dreamer bans defended pawn, and I think we might see half reflected, which is insane because both of these players, I think, have banned half reflected in like all of their games in the World Championship so far, including in the qualifying matches. So let's see. Let me hop in.